Hello, welcome back to the Future Nerd, and today we are going to discuss about GraphQL. And GraphQL is a query language and it runs on the server side of our API that prioritize giving the clients exactly the data they request and no more. Like let's say we have an API to get the detail of projects that we have created in our previous session, and in the project model that we are returning to the client, if the client needs more data or the less data in the model that we are returning, then we have to create another endpoint to serve that purpose. Let's say user do not want the user information in the project and it just want us to return the project details only. Then we have an endpoint that will return the project information, and if an at another point the clients want us to return some data of the project including the user information as well, then we have to create another endpoint to serve that purpose, and then we will have two endpoints and it would add an effort at the backend side to create an endpoint. Then there comes the GraphQL in the picture and it serves the purpose that the client would request us what the data it needs, and the GraphQL would return the data exactly what it needs, and there is no more data other than what the client's requirement. And for the GraphQL implementation in our .NET application, we have an open source GraphQL server, hotchocolate, and it is very easy to set up. And in the GraphQL concept, we have three types of concept like query, mutation, and subscription. The query is to fetch the data from our GraphQL API, and the mutation is to create or update using the GraphQL. And the third type is subscription, that is just like the notifications or the events. Whenever the data is going to be changed, we can trigger an event or a notification that would be returned to the subscription at the client side that it had subscribed. And let's start writing the GraphQL, and for that we have the following packages: the ASP hot chocolate, ASP.NET Core, the Voyager, the data, and data.entry framework. These are the packages that we are going to use, and these are the attributes that we are going to use on our queries. Like for pagination on our queries, we don't have to take care on our own, we just have to use the use paging attribute and it would add the required code for us and it would return the paginated result to the client. And we can also add filtering on our query. The filtering is as you know, we want to filter the data from our API on multiple filters, and it would provide all the filter for us, like for integers less than or greater than or equal, and for the string it includes, contains, start from or end from or anything that we need to filter, it would provide us, and then the sorting as well. And let's see in our API, and in our program file I have added the GraphQL server from the package I have installed for hot chocolate. and I am using filtering. Projection is used to select what the fields you need to get from our GraphQL API, and the sorting is used to just sort the data. And then I am using pagination as cursor pagination as well, and I have defined the default page size and the maximum page size as well, and I am returning the total count in our pagination information model as well. So then I have added a query type and a mutation type. Let's see what is in this query type. In this query type I have two methods. One is just to get the project by the ID, and I am returning the iQueryable, and I am using the projection and use first or default because I am using the project ID to find the projects in the database, and I am injecting the DB context in the method as well as from the services. And then I have get projects that is returning all the projects in the database, and then I have injected the DB context as well in this method, and I am using the pagination, projection, filtering and sorting. And then I have a mutation type defined in our GraphQL server, and let's see what is in this mutation type. In this mutation type I am just creating a project, and again I am injecting the DB context and passing a project view model to create a project. I am not using the auto mapper here because I just need to keep it simple, but we can also use the CQRS pattern, the event driven pattern as well. So I am just getting the view model from the client and creating a project for against that view model in our database and returning the ID of newly created project to the client. Now if I run this application, and in our GraphQL server, the default path of the GraphQL server is /GraphQL, and let's see what it looks like. And I am also adding a Voyager. I am mapping the GraphQL routes. It would add the default route that would be /GraphQL. You can override it as well, and I am using Voyager as well. Voyager would be getting the routes path and the Voyager itself path. Let's see what is in the Voyager. Voyager says that I have a project query, and the project query have two methods. One is get project and then the projects. The project has these attributes or properties, and it would include task would have these properties, and the user would have these properties. So it would create us an entity diagram for us as well to see what we are returning and what are the navigations of each of the model. And in our GraphQL server, I would write GraphQL here, and you can see that I have written a query for getting projects, and if I would run this, I'm just returning the projects in our query type. Let me show you. I'm just returning the projects. So I can select from the projects what the attributes I need. For that, I have to, for writing a query, I would start from the query keyword and then the name of the query. Then I would show you I have two types of queries. One is project and projects. Let's see in the projects. In the projects, I have the page info because I am using paging. In the page info, I have has the next page or not, has previous page, or we at the end of the pagination, or we are on start of the page. And then we have a start cursor and end cursor of the record set that we are getting. I would say this has next page, has previous page, start cursor, end cursor, and then I have the edges and nodes. In nodes, I would have the project ID, user ID, name of the project, status of the project, tasks in the project. And you can see that I can, if I would write the ID here and then the name of the project here and then user, I want to get the user information as well, and in the user I would need the email of that user. Now if I would run this query, you would be able to see that now I have the pagination information. It does not have next page, and we are at the start of the page, and its start cursor is this and the end cursor is this, and we are getting the project ID 5, the name of the project is future nerd, the user email is future@nerd.com, and then we have another record, the project ID is 8, the name is test, user email is this. And if I would get the tasks from the projects as well, if I would write here name, you would be able to see that we do not have tasks for any of the project. So if we have any task, it would return us. And for the mutation, we will pass the view model to our, if I would press control space, it would show us the suggestions or intelligence, and we have only one mutation, that is create project. And in the create project, I have to pass view model of the create project view model, this type of model. And I would write here the name, that would be something like this, and then the status, that would be false, and then the user ID, that would be something like this. And now if I would run this test2 and user ID would be 1, and then I would run this mutation, you would be able to see that I have to stop this and run it again. GraphQL, and now if I will run this, you would be able to see that it returned us the newly created project ID. And now if I would run the query again, it would return us 3 records. The newly created project ID is 9 and its name is test2. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video and you have learned from it. Please subscribe and share. Thank you very much. Stay awesome.